What's up, geeks? You are tuned in to Fit Geek Training, where we talk about your fitness and all the things that you geek out about. Today, we are going to talk about one of the funnest movies in all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, the one that kicked off everything in space, the one that turned Chris Pratt into a star. We're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. Stick around.
They call themselves the Guardians of the Galaxy.
What a bunch of a-holes.
Hooked on a feeling, I'm high on believing that you're in love with me. I'm hooked on a feeling.
What's up, geeks? I'm John Sargent, and this is Fit Geek Training. Alright, we are continuing our Marvel Cinematic Universe review series. We've done all the ones up to this point, and today we're going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy. We're also doing workouts for each one of these movies, so if that's your thing, go ahead and check those out on this channel also. But today we're going to be breaking down the first Guardians of the Galaxy, the one that took us all by surprise. I didn't think it was going to be good. You didn't think it was going to be good. I guarantee it. But guess what? It is. It's really good, and today we're going to break it down. Let's get into the cast. We're going to start with Chris Pratt. He plays Peter Quill, Star-Lord. He's the one that makes the whole thing go. Really surprising casting and a pleasant surprise. He's the doofus from Parks and Rec, which he is great on that show, but I don't think anyone had him pegged as an action star. Anyone except for the director of this movie, James Gunn, who fought for Chris Pratt and told the studio, you know, if he can't get in shape, I'll CG him in shape. I want this guy that bad. And man, did that gamble pay off, because he is an exceptional Star-Lord. Zoe Saldana plays Gamora. She's good in this movie. Her lack of trust for Star-Lord and the budding relationship that doesn't really get going in this one is great stuff. You know, he's kind of got a thing for women of color, green and pink women. I don't want to offend any pink people. And she is not having it with him, and it's just a really cool relationship. You got my man Batista as Drax the Destroyer. If you are a wrestling fan, you knew that Batista had charisma. You knew he could do this. If you were not a wrestling fan, then you probably don't have a clue who Dave Batista is, and he's just this muscular dude that was one of your favorite characters from this movie. The fact that he can't understand metaphors and he doesn't get sarcasm, all that stuff was a huge surprise that is just absolutely hysterical. It makes it a very rewatchable movie, because every time he's like, nothing will get over my head. It's funny no matter how many times you see it, and that charisma was always there with Batista. If you're a wrestling fan, you saw it a long time ago. Bradley Cooper plays Rocket the Raccoon. Rocket is probably the only character from Guardians that I knew of beforehand, because he popped up in Hulk and a couple other things here and there that I used to read. And Bradley Cooper does a great job as the kind of crass, rude, mean Rocket. It's kind of odd that they would get a star so big for someone you're not going to see, but he knocks it out of the park. He's probably my favorite character in the movie, and I really like Bradley Cooper in almost everything that he's done, so really glad that he's in this one. Lee Pace is your villain, Ronan the Destroyer. I'm not really familiar with his work outside of this, and this is not very memorable. I only remember Ronan the Destroyer's name, Ronan the Accuser. I can't even remember it now. I only remember it while I'm watching it, because he is a very forgettable villain. Formidable, strong, tough, not interesting at all. Michael Rooker plays Yondu, the Ravager that kind of raised Peter, and he is awesome in this movie, just like he's awesome in everything that I've ever seen him in. Michael Rooker is one of those, hey, it's that guy, and he's great every time out, and Yondu is a really fun character. Karen Gillan is Nebula. She's a bit of a background player in this. She does have a kind of a medium-sized role, and she does really well with it. I didn't even really notice her a whole lot until viewing it a couple of times and seeing the second one. Her makeup in this movie is spectacular, but she has a lot more to do in the second movie. Groot, I am Groot, is played by Vin Diesel. Why? I don't know. Literally anybody on the planet could have been Groot, and it would have had just as much power and gravitas as it does. Just find anybody with a deep voice. Literally anybody with a deep voice could have done this. I love the character Groot. I don't know why it's Vin Diesel, though. He doesn't do a bad job, because you can't do a bad job, and you can't do a good job either. You got 3 words to say. So, confusing casting choice, but not a bad one. The plot of this movie, man, was that a surprise. This is a very, very well-written movie. The first thing we see is a little boy, and his mother is dying of cancer. When I saw this in theaters, I could not believe what I was seeing. This is how you're going to start a Disney movie? It is such a sad, sad scene. His mother dies, and he's abducted by aliens. Then you're like, is this the tone of this movie? And then the next thing you see is in space, you got grown-up Peter, and now you get the tone of this movie. He's listening to Come and Get Your Love, and he's singing into Space Rats, and he's trying to find this little orb deal, and some people come to take it from him, and then you really get the idea of what you're watching here. He's like, I'm Star-Lord, and they're like, who the hell is Star-Lord? And you get that, oh, okay, this is like a fun, goofy kind of comedy deal. This is not serious at all. Then we realize this orb that he has just gotten is really important. We meet Ronan, the Accuser. I'm probably going to call him the Destroyer a couple more times, so I'm going to apologize ahead of time. He's just that not memorable for me. The orb is very important to him. He is going to trade it to Thanos. This is the first time we get to see Thanos. If you don't know already, and I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're well aware of how important Thanos is and who Thanos is and what he's up to, but he is trying to collect the Infinity Stones, and he is the biggest bad guy in all of Marvel, hands down. Ronan is going to get the orb, and he's going to give it to Thanos in exchange for Thanos exterminating the planet Xandar, which is where the Nova Corps is based, and they're sort of the space cops. Peter still has the orb, though, and he's going to trade it in at Orb Stop, but Orb Stop's only going to give him like $1.78 for it, so he goes outside, and Gamora is there waiting. Gamora is the illegitimate daughter of Thanos, and she is a trained warrior. We don't really know why she's there. I think maybe she told Thanos that she would go get the orb. And she does. She tries to steal it from Peter. They end up fighting, and then we meet Rocket and Groot. They're there to collect bounties, and they find that Star-Lord is there, and he's pretty much just carrying bounties on his head all the time. They all fight, a really entertaining fight scene, and then the Nova Corps comes and arrests all 4 of them. They end up going to a Nova prison, and this is where we meet Drax. And I love Drax. He's such a cool character. It's not very often that the biggest, strongest, toughest, meanest looking guy is also the comedic relief as well. And the stuff that happens in this prison is my favorite parts of this entire movie. The breakout is hilarious when Groot takes the battery off the wall too soon and they have to go their separate ways and get the things that they need. All that stuff is so entertaining and so funny. So they do break out of the prison. They're about to get on their way, but Quill's got to go get his mixtape that his mother gave him before she died. This is when you really get an idea that this great soundtrack that this movie has is not just for our entertainment. It actually serves a plot point in the movie, and I can't think of another movie that did that, where the music is actually super important to what's happening within the music. The specific songs, not just the tone of the music. Then I thought that was a really good piece of writing to make him risk his life and risk not escaping this prison because he had to have that tape. So now they've got a way to make money because Gamora was going to sell this orb for 4 billion units. So now they're going to split the money. They're going to take it to a planet called Nowhere. Actually, it's not a planet. It's a hollowed out head of a Celestial. The Celestials are the ones that created the Infinity Stones in the first place. So they go to Nowhere. They got some time to kill, so Drax and Rocket go get hammered drunk, and Peter tries to put the moves on Gamora. They end up getting in a fight, and Drax leaves. Rocket does not like being called a raccoon. He doesn't even know what a raccoon is. He doesn't like being a rodent. It's the first time since the beginning that things get serious, and you see the real feelings and emotions that these sort of comical characters have. And it's a great balance of feels. There's all the feels. The good feels, the bad feels, all the feels are in this movie. So Rocket's drunk and he's mad and Drax leaves. The remaining Guardians go see the Collector to sell him the orb. The Collector is Benicio del Toro. We remember him because he was in the post-credit scene of Thor, and we know that he wants all the Infinity Stones. We don't know what his plans are with them, but we know that he's after them, and that's not good. His slave girl ends up touching the stone when they free it from the orb and blows up his whole collection of mishmashed aliens and things from all over the universe. So now they're not going to get their money, and they realize they're essentially carrying around a tiny nuclear weapon. They're carrying around a weapon of mass destruction, and they do not want it. Gamora wants to give it to the Nova Corps. Peter still wants to make money with it. And in the meantime, Drax has called Ronan. Is it Ronan? Hang on a sec. Ronan, the accuser, and he's going to come down and kick their ass. Also, Yondu has showed up because Peter double-crossed him, so now they got to deal with all of that at the same time. Everybody's fighting everybody. Ronan is beating up Drax, and Peter's trying to escape Yondu. Nebula is chasing down Gamora. She blows up her ship. She's floating out in space, and Peter has to put on his little space helmet guy, and he floats out and saves her, and Yondu comes and picks them all up. So the Guardians devise 12% of a plan. They tell the Nova Corps, come help us out, we're going to save the galaxy, and they head off to cut off Ronan before he can destroy Xandar. So them and the Nova Corps go intercept him. There's a really, really cool scene where the Nova Corps connects all of their spacecrafts and create kind of an electric net and try to stop Ronan's ship from getting to the ground, because if he touches the Power Stone to Xandar, boom, no more Xandar. That planet's gone, and that's the whole idea. They want to stop that. This scene kind of reminds me of the video game Asteroids. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but you have like the good guys down here shooting up at the bad guys who are coming straight down, and it really just looks like the video game Asteroids, which I think had to have been intentional, but it's a kind of a cool nod to that. They end up crash landing, and before Ronan can touch it to the ground, Peter starts dancing, which is a really funny, charming part of the movie, and he's distracting him while Drax shoots a rocket at him and blows him up, and the Power Stone comes out. Peter goes and grabs it, and it turns out he can handle the power. There's something up there. They all lock hands, which is a really cool metaphor for unity, for them all coming together. The bunch of a-holes that didn't like each other, now they're all saving each other's lives. Really, really cool ending to this movie. The third act, the ending of a lot of the Marvel movies, is usually the weakest part. Not the case with this one. It's not the strongest part, but it is a really solid ending. The Nova Corps lets them know that all of their crimes have been expunged and just sort of sends them off on their way. So we know there's more adventures to come, but it's kind of just a nice, pleasant, open ending that's left for however many sequels they're going to make. The post-credit scene in this one is just sort of comedic. You're back at the Collector's collection, and he's sitting there licking his wounds, and one of his collections is sitting next to him drinking a martini, and that is Howard the Duck. If you're not familiar with Howard the Duck, go watch that movie. It won the Academy Award for greatest movie ever made. Alright, the ranking. Very first Guardians of the Galaxy, the pleasant surprise, the one that no one saw coming. A movie that I absolutely adore. There's a lot of themes in this one that mean a lot to me just because of some things that have happened in my own life. This movie is number 5 out of 17. This one starts the top 5 for me. I absolutely adore this movie. It does have some things that kind of knock it down a little bit for me. One being that the villain, Ronan, is totally and completely unmemorable. He just sort of looks like an emo Ronald McDonald, and he doesn't actually do anything. He doesn't have any lines that I remember. He's just sort of strong, and that's about it, and that's not enough for me with a villain. There's also some things in the plot that get sort of glossed over or overshadowed. I've seen this movie a lot of times, and I'm still noticing new things that are fairly important about the story. So it knocks it down just a little bit, but even then completely nitpicking, because this is an absolutely entertaining, fantastic, funny, charming, witty movie from beginning to end. The rundown. The rundown is my big, bold thought. I'm going to give you one every week concerning the movie at hand. For this one, Guardians of the Galaxy 1, I've said it a few times now, the pleasant surprise, the one that nobody saw coming, literally nobody. I'm guessing Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel, was like, yeah, I guess that will work. This movie is proof positive that almost any Marvel property under the right guidance, can be a successful movie or a successful franchise. I hadn't heard of Guardians of the Galaxy. I'm assuming you hadn't either. This movie made almost $800 million out of nowhere. A story just broke that in 1992, Marvel Comics attempted to sell its entire library of characters to Sony for $25 million. And Sony said, go pound sand. The only one we want is Spider-Man. And that's the only one they took, and they made the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies that maybe we'll talk about later on in the future. And they left the rest to Marvel. They sold a few here and there, but for $25 million, they could have had all of it, and they passed. And then something as obscure as the Guardians of the Galaxy is this successful. Under the right guidance, they can make a successful, popular movie with pretty much anything in their library, and I can't wait for more of these obscure things to come to the surface. Recommendations. Alright, number one, this is probably something you've already picked up or listened to, the soundtrack. You have to listen to the soundtrack of this movie. It is such a good time for whatever you're doing. Doesn't matter. One of the best soundtracks to a movie in history. We all know that. The other thing I want to recommend to you is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. This was a really good run of the comic. Some of the stuff concerning Peter's dad is in here. And Brian Michael Bendis, the writer on this, is one of the best comic writers ever. So if you're looking to get more Guardians in your day, this is a good way to do it. Go pick that up wherever you buy comic books. Alright geeks, that wraps it up for Guardians of the Galaxy. Keep your eyes open because we're doing a workout for this one also. We're going to do a group workout. We're going to get together a bunch of a-holes and you're going to work out with your group of a-holes. And as always, go to the Instagram at FitGeekTraining, and if you're looking for a workout designed specifically for you, that's what I do. I can do it from anywhere from a month to a year, specifically for your strengths. If that's something you want to do, go to the website, fitgeektraining.com, and I will catch you guys next week. Game over.